The night was quiet, darker than usual. Stars blinked weakly in the sky, but the moon looked pale, as if it feared something was coming. Across the world, people lived their normal lives, unaware that this was the last night of peace. In a small laboratory buried under the mountains, a group of scientists stared at strange signals on their monitors. The signals had been repeating for weeks, always growing stronger. At first, they thought it was a star dying far away, or maybe a broken satellite. But now the truth was clear. These were not natural signals. They were messages, and they were coming closer. Dr. Helen, the lead scientist, leaned forward with cold sweat on her forehead. "It's not just a signal," she whispered. "It's a countdown." Her voice trembled, but no one in the room argued. The signals carried patterns too perfect, too sharp, too powerful. The scientists had tried warning governments, but their warnings were ignored. Leaders told the public not to panic. They said it was just space noise. But Helen knew better. Space was never that organized. Something intelligent was out there, and it was approaching Earth. Days passed. The countdown grew louder. Military radars picked up massive objects moving faster than anything known to man. They weren't asteroids. They weren't comets. They were ships, giant, dark, and cold, sliding silently through the void. On the seventh day, the world changed forever. Over the city of New York, the night sky suddenly dimmed. A shadow spread over the streets as if the sun itself had been swallowed. People stopped in confusion, pointing upward. And then they saw it, an enormous alien ship, black as iron, hanging in the clouds. Its size dwarfed the skyscrapers, blocking half the stars from view. Children cried. Cars stopped in the middle of roads. Phones recorded the strange object as millions of terrified voices filled the air. And just as suddenly, similar ships appeared across the globe. London, Beijing, Sydney, Moscow, Cairo. The invasion had begun. Governments scrambled to respond. Fighter jets soared into the sky, missiles locked onto the alien ships. But the first strike ended in disaster. Every missile disappeared into glowing shields that shimmered around the alien vessels. The jets were swatted down by beams of light, vanishing in the sky like fireflies crushed by a giant hand. The world's strongest weapons were useless. Panic exploded everywhere. In the streets, people ran screaming, desperate to hide. Families locked doors, churches filled with frightened prayers, and armies prepared for a battle they could not win. Across the planet, fear spread like fire. Dr. Helen sat in her lab, staring at the data. She felt powerless. Humanity was strong, but compared to this enemy, they were insects. These ships had not come to talk. They had not come to share knowledge. They had come to destroy. Above the clouds, the alien ships moved in silence. Their cold metal surfaces reflected no light, and their weapons glowed with eerie blue energy. They began to strike. The first beam fell on Tokyo. A flash of light brighter than the sun lit the entire horizon, and within seconds, half the city was gone. Buildings turned to ash, bridges melted, and millions of lives vanished in an instant. The scream of the earth itself echoed through the smoke. More beams followed. Cairo burned. New Delhi cracked under fire. Paris fell silent. The aliens did not speak. They did not warn. They simply destroyed. In the chaos, people asked the same question. Why? Why would these creatures travel across galaxies only to burn another world? What did they want? But the answer never came. Only destruction. As the death toll rose, despair grew heavier. Humanity's armies were scattered, their defenses broken. Even nuclear weapons, the ultimate human power, were blocked by the alien shields. Nothing worked. But in the middle of despair, something strange began to happen. Deep under the oceans, tremors shook the sea floor. Volcanoes, long dormant, began to wake. Winds howled in unnatural patterns. Animals fled into forests as if they sensed something rising. The earth itself seemed restless, angry, alive. The scientists noticed first. Seismographs screamed with violent readings. Storms formed without warning. "This is not normal," Dr. Helen whispered, staring at the data. "The planet is responding." But no one believed her yet. Not until the ground itself began to roar. Across the globe, people stood frozen in fear, watching the alien ships dominate the skies. They thought the war was lost. They thought humanity was finished. But they were wrong. Something deeper, older, more powerful than any army was waking. The planet Earth had been wounded, and it was about to fight back. And when Earth fights, it shows no mercy. The world was drowning in fire and fear. Cities had turned to ruins. Smoke covered the skies. The alien ships, dark and silent, hovered above like vultures waiting for more prey. Humanity had never seen such destruction. Across the globe, soldiers tried to fight back. Tanks rolled through broken streets, jets launched into stormy skies, and fleets of warships fired missiles into the air. But none of it mattered. Every bullet, every rocket, every missile vanished against the glowing alien shields. The invaders were untouchable. In Washington, generals shouted into radios, their voices filled with desperation. "Keep firing! Don't let them advance!" But their commands felt empty. The enemy was not advancing on foot. They were gods in the sky, striking down from above. In London, people crowded in the underground tunnels, praying the city would survive the next attack. In Tokyo, survivors searched the rubble for loved ones, even as alien beams lit the horizon. In Africa, tribes gathered under the stars, whispering old legends of spirits and protectors, hoping the stories were true. But most of humanity only felt despair. They asked the same question: why keep fighting if nothing works? Still, humans fought. It was in their nature. In New York, a squadron of jets took off, the last of the city's defenders. Among them was Captain Marcus Hale, a veteran pilot with eyes as sharp as steel. His radio crackled with the voices of younger pilots, nervous and afraid. "Captain, how do we fight them?" one asked. Marcus looked at the massive alien ship above the city. Its cold metal surface reflected the fires below. He knew they had no chance. But he answered anyway. "We fight because this is our home," he said. "We fight because Earth is ours, and we don't bow." The jets roared upward, leaving trails of smoke behind. They fired everything they had: missiles, bullets, even ramming attempts. One by one, they were erased by beams of blue light. Explosions filled the sky. Marcus flew higher, closer to the ship's shield. His last missile locked onto the glowing barrier. He whispered to himself, "For Earth," and fired. The missile exploded uselessly against the shield, just like all the others. The ship's weapon turned toward him. A beam of light struck his jet, tearing it apart. For a moment, fire consumed the sky. But Marcus smiled before the end. He had done what he could. He had resisted. His sacrifice was only one among millions. Around the world, men and women stood against the impossible. Some fought with guns, others with knives, some with nothing but courage. They all fell, but they showed the aliens one truth: humans do not surrender easily. Meanwhile, Dr. Helen watched from her lab, her heart breaking. She had warned the world, but now her warnings meant nothing. Every city was burning, every defense collapsing. Humanity was standing at the edge of extinction. Suddenly, her computer screens lit up with new readings. Earthquakes stronger than any in history shook the continents. Tsunamis rose higher than skyscrapers. Volcanoes erupted with violent fury. One of her assistants gasped, "Is this the aliens doing it?" Helen shook her head. Her eyes widened with fear and wonder. "No, this is the Earth. The planet itself is fighting back." The others stared at her in disbelief, but the evidence was clear. The timing was too perfect. Every time an alien ship moved, storms formed around it. Every time their weapons fired, the ground itself trembled in response. It was as if Earth was alive, and it was angry. Across the world, people began to notice. In Brazil, villagers saw lightning strike alien drones without missing once. In the Pacific, waves swallowed a landing craft before it could reach shore. In Iceland, lava burst upward and tore through an alien walker. The invaders, who had seemed untouchable, now looked confused. Their shields flickered under nature's rage. Their perfect formations broke as they struggled to avoid the storms and quakes. For the first time, the predators hesitated. In the ruins of Paris, a boy hiding under the rubble whispered to his mother, "Mama, the earth is fighting for us." She hugged him close, tears in her eyes. Yes, maybe it is. The world had thought humanity's weapons were useless, but Earth itself was becoming the ultimate weapon. Still, the battle was far from over. The aliens regrouped, their massive motherships glowing brighter, preparing to unleash even greater destruction. The ground cracked beneath their energy, but the Earth roared louder, answering every strike with storms, floods, and fire. For humanity, it was a moment of hope. Soldiers cheered when alien drones were torn apart by tornadoes. Survivors prayed as lightning destroyed enemy weapons. Yet Dr. Helen knew the truth. Hope was dangerous. Earth was powerful. But would it be enough? Could the planet itself truly defeat an enemy from the stars? The answer remained hidden. But one thing was certain. Humanity was not fighting alone anymore. The Earth had awakened, and the war had just begun. The alien ships still covered the skies, black shadows against burning cities. Humanity's weapons had failed, and countless lives had already been lost. Yet something strange was happening. Something no one had expected. The Earth itself had begun to fight. In the Pacific Ocean, waves rose higher than mountains, crashing against alien ships that tried to hover low. The water twisted like giant hands, dragging metallic monsters into the depths. In South America, the Amazon jungle shook violently. Trees fell, rivers split, and the ground split open like a scar. But the destruction was not random. It seemed guided. Every quake, every flood, every storm was aimed directly at the invaders. On the coast of Japan, fishermen hiding in their boats watched in disbelief as lightning bolts fell from the clouds, striking an alien drone again and again until its glowing core burst into fire. One old man whispered, "The Earth is angry. It defends its children." In her laboratory, Dr. Helen studied the readings on her screens. Her hands trembled as she read the impossible numbers. Energy spikes, tectonic shifts, unnatural storm formations. Her machines screamed with data she could not explain. "This is not coincidence," she said quietly. Her assistant looked pale. "Then, you mean the Earth is alive?" Helen did not answer. She had no proof. But deep in her heart, she felt it. The planet was not just a ball of rock and water. It was something greater, something ancient. And now, it had awakened. The aliens noticed too. For the first time since their arrival, the invaders showed hesitation. Their perfect formations broke as their ships scattered to avoid nature's fury. The blue glow of their weapons flickered, as if something was interfering with their power. They had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they had found a world that fought back with storms and fire. In the ruins of Cairo, survivors watched as sandstorms rose without warning. The winds screamed across the desert, wrapping around an alien walker. The machine's joints groaned and twisted until it collapsed into the sand. The people, weak and afraid only moments before, began to cheer. Hope was spreading. In New York, a young girl hiding with her father in a subway tunnel pointed at the ground as it shook. "Daddy, the Earth is shaking," she said. Her father held her close. "Yes, sweetheart," he whispered. "It's fighting for us." Above them, alien ships blasted their weapons toward the ground. But each strike was answered. Cracks opened in the streets, swallowing entire machines. Lightning split the sky, striking again and again, each bolt sharper than any weapon humanity had built. The Earth was fighting with everything it had. Still, the aliens were not weak. They regrouped quickly, their motherships glowing with a strange blue fire. From their sides, new weapons appeared. Machines designed to counter the storms, drones that flew into the hurricanes, and massive drills that tried to pierce the Earth's crust. It was a terrifying sight. In London, people huddled in underground bunkers as the sky above roared with thunder. A priest whispered prayers, but his voice shook with fear. He looked up at the ceiling and said, "If Earth itself fights, maybe God fights through it." Back in the lab, Helen's team argued. "If the Earth is fighting," one scientist said, "then we just need to let it continue. Humanity can't do anything." "No," Helen replied firmly. "We can't sit and wait. Earth is powerful, but the aliens are learning. They are adapting. If they find a way to resist nature's fury, then we are finished." Her assistant asked, "Then what do we do?" Helen's eyes burned with determination. "We help the Earth. We fight with it." Outside, the planet continued its wrath. In Iceland, volcanoes erupted, spewing lava across the land. The rivers of fire chased alien machines, burning them to molten scraps. In the jungles of Africa, animals moved in massive herds, as if guided by some unseen force, crushing alien scouts that wandered too far. Everywhere, the world itself was a weapon. The aliens responded with brutal strength. They unleashed waves of energy that shattered mountains and boiled seas. They did not care if they destroyed the planet as long as they could claim it. But the Earth roared louder. A superstorm formed over the Atlantic, its winds stronger than anything in history. Hurricanes merged into a single monstrous spiral, tearing through alien ships like paper. At its center, lightning glowed red instead of white, striking with unnatural precision. Humans across the world stopped running for a moment. They lifted their eyes to the storm, to the fire, to the trembling ground. For the first time, they believed. For the first time, they felt they were not alone. The war was no longer just between humanity and the aliens. It was between the invaders and the living planet itself. And the Earth had only just begun to fight. The world had never seen storms like this. The sky turned black, lightning danced across the clouds, and thunder rolled like the roar of giants. Every ocean, every mountain, every desert seemed alive, moving with purpose. The Earth itself was no longer silent. It was angry. Alien ships, once untouchable, now struggled against nature's fury. Their glowing shields flickered as lightning struck again and again. Winds stronger than hurricanes pushed their fleets apart, scattering them across the skies. The invaders, who had come to destroy, were now fighting to survive. In the Caribbean, waves rose like walls of water, taller than the tallest towers. They crashed into an alien cruiser, tearing its black surface apart. The ship sank beneath the ocean, swallowed by the sea as if the Earth itself had claimed its prize. In the forests of Brazil, storms raged for days. Rain poured in sheets and thunder split the air. When alien machines landed among the trees, the ground turned against them. Roots rose from the soil, wrapping around the metal legs of the invaders. Massive trees fell, crushing drones beneath their weight. The jungle was alive with rage. Across Africa, deserts turned into weapons. Sandstorms swallowed alien patrols, blinding their sensors and tearing at their armor. In the heart of the Sahara, dunes shifted suddenly, burying an entire column of alien walkers under mountains of sand. Survivors looked on in awe and whispered, "The Earth fights with us." In the frozen north, glaciers cracked with thunderous force. Icebergs broke free, crashing into alien landing craft in the Arctic seas. Creatures that had slept beneath the ice for centuries rose to the surface, fleeing the chaos, as if even animals could feel the planet's fury. But nature's wrath was not just physical, it was relentless. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, the Earth struck harder. Lightning tore through their shields. Earthquakes shook their machines apart. Volcanic eruptions blasted fire into the skies, swallowing ships whole. It was as if the planet had become a living army, using every element as a weapon. In New Delhi, survivors gathered on rooftops, watching the sky as alien ships fought against a cyclone. The storm spun them like toys, smashing them into one another. A boy raised his hands toward the sky and shouted, "Go, Earth! Destroy them!" His cry echoed, and others began to cheer. Hope was spreading, but the aliens were not defeated yet. Their motherships, massive and terrifying, hovered above the chaos. Blue light pulsed within them, stronger than before. They adapted, shifting their shields to resist the storms, using strange energy beams to calm the skies. With every counterattack, they tried to bend the Earth back into silence. In Washington, military leaders watched through satellites. One general clenched his fists. "Even with the Earth itself on our side, it might not be enough," he muttered. But Dr. Helen refused to believe that. Standing in her lab, she stared at the data pouring across her screens. "The Earth is fighting smarter than us," she said. "It knows where to strike. It knows how to hurt them." Her assistant looked at her, fear in his eyes. "Then why does it need us?" Helen's gaze hardened. "Because Earth cannot win alone. We are its children, and children must fight beside their parent." Meanwhile, the aliens unleashed their own fury. Over Asia, they fired beams that split mountains in half. Over Europe, they dropped weapons that froze entire lakes solid. Their technology was brutal, merciless. For every alien ship destroyed, thousands of human lives were still lost. Yet Earth never stopped. A volcano in Italy erupted, sending a river of fire across the land. The molten wave climbed an alien walker, burning it until its black armor melted like wax. In the Atlantic, lightning formed a circle around a fleet of alien ships, trapping them inside until the ocean itself rose to drag them under. Nature was not kind. Nature was merciless. Survivors began to believe in something greater. In London's bunkers, whispers spread, "The planet protects us." In African villages, people chanted to the storm, thanking it for destroying their enemies. In New York's ruins, soldiers raised their rifles to the sky, screaming, "Fight with us, Earth!" For the first time in history, humanity felt united, not under one flag, not under one leader, but under the living force of their world. Still, the battle was not over. The largest mothership descended through the clouds above the Pacific. Its size was greater than any city. The sky glowed blue as it charged its ultimate weapon. Waves pulled back, winds fell silent, and for a moment, even the Earth seemed to hold its breath. Then the mothership fired. A beam of pure energy struck the ocean. The water boiled, steam rising into the air. Entire islands shook, their shores torn apart. Millions of tons of water were thrown into the sky, raining down like a second storm. For the first time, the Earth staggered. The storm over the Atlantic weakened. The ground tremors slowed. The Earth was powerful, but it was not invincible. Watching from her lab, Helen clenched her fists. "This is it," she whispered. "The aliens know Earth is alive. Now they will try to kill it." The war had reached its turning point. The Earth had shown its wrath. The aliens had shown their power. And the final clash was coming. The ocean still boiled where the alien mothership's weapon had struck. Steam rose into the sky like a ghostly curtain, and the silence that followed was heavier than thunder. For a moment, it felt as if the Earth had been wounded. The storms weakened, the earthquakes slowed, and fear returned to human hearts. In bunkers and ruins across the world, people held their breath. Survivors wondered if the Earth had reached its limit. If the planet itself could fall, then what hope did humanity have? But the silence did not last. The sea that had boiled began to move again. Waves rose, not in panic, but with fury. The ground beneath the oceans shook with unstoppable force. From the cracks of the Earth's crust, molten fire surged upward, glowing red through the water. The planet was not defeated. It was gathering strength. In her laboratory, Dr. Helen saw the readings spike across her screens. The graphs rose so sharply they nearly broke the machines. Her assistant gasped. "Is this the end?" Helen shook her head, eyes wide. "No, this is the answer. The Earth is preparing something." And then it began. Across the world, the Earth launched its greatest counterattack. In South America, the Andes Mountains shook until peaks cracked apart. Rivers of stone rolled downward like avalanches, crushing alien walkers that had landed in the valleys. In Africa, the Sahara roared to life, sending storms of fire-hot sand into the sky, burning through alien shields. In Asia, the Himalayas spat ice and snow so powerful that entire fleets were buried beneath frozen storms. But the greatest strike came from the oceans. The Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Indian Oceans all moved as if alive. Tides shifted unnaturally, currents twisted like spirals, and tsunamis taller than skyscrapers formed on every horizon. The alien fleets above the seas trembled as the waters rose against them. Ships that had hovered untouchable were suddenly dragged downward by invisible hands. The oceans had turned into weapons. In New York's ruins, survivors on rooftops watched in disbelief. "The sea is fighting," one soldier muttered. His voice shook, but his eyes burned with hope. "The whole world is fighting." The aliens responded with desperate power. The motherships unleashed their full arsenal. Beams of blue fire scorched the skies, tearing holes in the atmosphere. Energy blasts split mountains and boiled lakes. Their technology was unstoppable against human weapons, but against the planet itself, it was like striking an endless wall. Still, the aliens fought harder, learning to resist. They formed new shields, stronger and sharper. They unleashed drills to pierce the Earth's crust, trying to drain its energy. The battle became a war of endurance, alien technology against planetary rage. Above the Pacific, the largest mothership opened again, glowing like a false sun. It fired a weapon so strong it shattered clouds across half the world. The beam tore into the ocean, creating a scar that spread for miles. The sea boiled, animals died, islands shook. But then the Earth answered. The ocean rose higher than ever before. A single wave, black and silver, rose like a wall that touched the clouds. For a moment, the alien mothership looked small before it. The wave struck with unstoppable force. The mothership's shield flickered, cracked, and then shattered. The giant ship was thrown backward, crashing into the sea with an explosion so loud it shook continents. The impossible had happened. An alien mothership had fallen. Around the world, people cheered through tears. Soldiers in bunkers shouted with joy. Families hiding underground hugged one another. Humanity had seen the invincible bleed. Dr. Helen wiped her eyes as she whispered, "We can win. Earth can win." But deep down, she knew the truth. This was not just victory. This was a turning point. The aliens had underestimated the planet. They had believed Earth was nothing but stone and water. Now they knew it was alive, aware, and furious. And Earth had no mercy. Still, Helen feared what would come next. "They won't stop now," she told her team. "They will return with everything they have. If they cannot conquer Earth, they will try to kill it." Her words came true within hours. The remaining alien fleets gathered around their motherships, forming dark rings in the sky. Blue light pulsed from their cores, brighter than anything before. They were preparing a final strike, a weapon powerful enough to kill the planet itself. Humanity could only watch. In London, survivors held hands, praying to gods old and new. In Africa, villagers danced beneath the storms, begging the earth to keep fighting. In America, soldiers raised their broken rifles and shouted to the sky, "We stand with you!" The earth answered. Volcanoes across the world erupted at the same time. Lava tore across the land. Lightning storms burned brighter than the sun. Oceans swelled, winds howled, and earthquakes split the ground. It was chaos, but it was not random. It was war. The earth had chosen its moment. This was no longer a defense. This was an attack. and for the first time the aliens looked afraid. The skies glowed with unnatural light. Alien ships circled the Earth like vultures, their blue energy cores pulsing brighter and faster. From space, the planet looked as if it were under siege, wrapped in chains of fire and smoke. The invaders had lost one mothership, but they were far from defeated. Now, they prepared their ultimate weapon. A strike meant not just to kill humans, but to silence the planet itself. Across the world, survivors watched the skies with dread. In bunkers, in forests, in ruined cities, they whispered to each other, "This is it, the final battle." But Earth was ready. The ground trembled as if a giant heartbeat echoed from beneath. Mountains cracked open, releasing rivers of fire. Storm clouds gathered across every continent, charged with lightning that glowed blood red instead of white. The oceans swelled, pulling back as if preparing to leap. Dr. Helen stared at her monitors, overwhelmed by the data flooding her screens. "It's everywhere," she whispered. "The entire planet is focusing its power. It knows this is the end." Her assistant's face was pale. "But can Earth survive what's coming?" Helen's voice was steady. "We'll find out." Above the Pacific, the alien fleet moved into formation. Hundreds of ships aligned in a perfect circle around their largest mothership. Blue energy gathered between them, a massive sphere of light growing larger and larger until it shone like a second sun. The air itself vibrated with its power. Then the aliens fired. The sphere of energy broke apart into 1,000 beams, all aimed at the Earth. They struck oceans, mountains, cities, burning everything they touched. Skies lit with unnatural fire. Forests vanished in seconds. Millions screamed as the invaders unleashed the fury of a dying star. But Earth answered. The oceans rose with a roar so loud it drowned out the alien thunder. Walls of water slammed upward, smashing into the beams, scattering their light. Volcanoes erupted at once, throwing ash and molten rock high into the sky. Lightning speared downward, striking alien ships with perfect accuracy. Tornadoes twisted across the land, pulling drones into their spirals before ripping them apart. Nature fought with fury, every element united. In Paris, survivors watched as lightning cut through the sky like blades, slicing alien ships into pieces. In the deserts of Egypt, sandstorms tore through enemy ranks, burying machines in dunes so deep they would never rise again. In New York's ruins, a group of soldiers raised their rifles to the sky and shouted, "Fight with us, Earth!" Their voices were lost in the storm, but their courage burned bright. The battle shook the world. Alien motherships unleashed weapons stronger than anything seen before, beams that split mountains, bombs that froze seas solid. But every attack was answered. The Earth seemed to learn as it fought, striking faster, harder, with more precision. The planet itself was no longer just defending, it was hunting. One by one, alien ships fell. In the Atlantic, a fleet was swallowed by a whirlpool so massive it dragged the ocean into a spiral of death. In Africa, lightning storms targeted a mothership until its shields collapsed, and then fire from the ground split it apart. In Asia, an earthquake opened the Earth wide, swallowing drones by the thousands. But the aliens did not give up. The largest mothership descended lower, its blue core glowing brighter than the sun. It fired a beam so powerful it tore through the storms and burned into the ground. Forests turned to ash. Rivers boiled. The Earth shook in agony. For a moment, it seemed the invaders would win. But then the Earth unleashed everything. From every continent, from every ocean, from every sky, nature struck at once. A storm the size of a continent rose over the Atlantic, filled with crimson lightning. Tsunamis circled the Pacific, waves higher than mountains. Volcanoes exploded from Africa to Asia, painting the sky with fire. The very ground convulsed, splitting cities apart but also tearing alien machines with it. The largest wave of all time rose from the ocean, taller than clouds. It moved with slow, unstoppable force, racing toward the mothership. Lightning struck across its surface, fire boiled from beneath, and winds carried it forward like a living wall. The mothership fired desperately, but its beams scattered against the storm. Its shield cracked. The waves struck. The sound was like the roar of the planet itself. The mothership exploded in a blast of blue fire, torn apart by the fury of water, fire, wind, and stone. Pieces rained into the ocean, swallowed forever by the sea. Silence followed. The remaining alien ships faltered. Their formations broke. Without their mothership, their power faded. One by one, storms hunted them down, waves pulled them under, and lightning tore them apart. Across the world, survivors raised their heads in disbelief. The invincible enemy was gone. The skies cleared slowly, showing stars once more. The earth was scarred, wounded, and burning, but it still lived. Dr. Helen leaned against her desk, tears on her face. "We did it," she whispered. "No, the earth did it." Her assistant looked at the fading storms. "Then it's over?" Helen shook her head. "No, this was only the first. Others will come. But now we know. We are not alone. Our planet will fight with us." Across the world, cheers and sobs echoed through the ruins. Humanity had seen the impossible. Their world itself had fought, and it had won. The earth had given no mercy. And the war had been decided. The skies were quiet at last. For the first time in weeks, no alien lights flickered above Earth. No burning beams rained down from the heavens. Only the stars shone, cold and distant, as if watching what had just unfolded. The battle was over. The ground still smoked where fire had torn through cities. The oceans still boiled in places where alien weapons had struck. Mountains stood broken. Forests burned, and countless lives were lost. Yet through the pain, there was one undeniable truth. Earth had survived. Humanity had survived. Dr. Helen stood outside the ruined research facility, her white coat torn and stained with dust. Around her, survivors crawled from shelters, blinking at the sunlight that pierced through the dark clouds. They looked weak, broken, but alive. For the first time, many of them lifted their heads not in fear of the skies, but in awe of the planet beneath their feet. Helen's assistant whispered, voice trembling, "It's like the earth itself fought for us." Helen nodded, her eyes wet with tears. "Not like. It did. We were never alone. The planet has always been alive. We just never listened." Across the globe, similar scenes unfolded. In New York, survivors gathered in the ruins of skyscrapers, staring at the river that now glowed with strange light, as if purified by the battle. In Tokyo, people bowed to the trembling ground, offering silent thanks. In Africa, tribes lit fires, not of war, but of prayer, honoring the earth's spirit. The message was clear. The world had protected its children. But the price was heavy. Entire nations lay in ashes. Billions were gone. The oceans carried wreckage from alien ships, their strange metals hissing as they sank beneath the waves. The skies were scarred, filled with dust and ash. Yet, amid destruction, there was hope. The planet had shown its strength, and humanity felt a new bond with it. People who once ignored nature now looked at the rivers, the trees, the winds with respect. They realized Earth was not just land to be used or destroyed. It was a living guardian, a force that could awaken when threatened. Weeks passed. Survivors began to rebuild. Broken cities were cleared, shelters turned into homes, and food shared among strangers. Unity grew where once there had been division. Borders seemed meaningless after what they had faced together. Humanity had been nearly erased, but now it stood as one family. But deep inside, a question lingered. Would the invaders return? Dr. Helen spent her nights studying the stars, searching for new signals. The universe was vast, and the aliens who attacked were not the only ones out there. She knew others might come, stronger and crueler. One evening, as she wrote in her journal, she paused. A tremor passed through the ground, not violent, but soft, almost like a whisper. She placed her hand on the soil, and for a moment she felt warmth. It was as if the earth itself was speaking. Her heart steadied. "Not alone," she whispered. "Never again." Far above, the stars glittered coldly. Somewhere beyond them, other civilizations might already be watching, wondering why their invasion had failed. They would see Earth, scarred but unbroken, and perhaps they would fear, for they now knew this planet was different. It was alive, and it gave no mercy. In villages, children asked their parents, "Will the monsters come back?" The parents answered with quiet strength, "If they do, Earth will protect us again." In cities, leaders declared a new future. They promised to heal the planet, to respect it, to work with it, rather than against it. Humanity had been spared once. They would not betray their guardian again. But still, the skies remained a reminder. Every night, people looked up, both grateful and afraid. The war was won, but the universe was wide. In the silence of space, wreckage from the alien fleet drifted like broken bones. Somewhere in the darkness, signals echoed. Somewhere, others listened. Somewhere, plans were already being made. The story was not over. But for now, the Earth rested. Its storms calmed, its oceans grew quiet, its fires cooled. The scars would remain for centuries, reminders of the day the world itself rose to protect life. And the final message was etched not in words, but in memory. Earth was not weak. Earth was not prey. Earth was a warrior, and it had defended its children with fury. Those who dared to attack again would learn the same truth. Earth forgives sometimes, but it never forgets, and when pushed too far, it shows no mercy.